Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Daily as I choke on my coffee. Excuse me. Oh, man, I should edit that, but it's too funny, so I'm not going to. Everybody, welcome into Fantasy Daily on this Friday night. It is 9:30 on March 26th, 2021. Thank you so much for joining me here, everybody, whether you're on Anchor, you're on Spotify, you're on Google, you're on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me again. I actually wasn't really sure what I was going to come on and talk about today. I have a lot of exciting ideas for the year that I was going to start talking about tonight, and I was going to start maybe going through my golden team and some stuff that I think is going to happen at the NFL draft, because now that free agency is a little bit behind us, we can kind of get right over into the draft. You're starting to see Mel Kiper more on TV, which makes me, kind of nostalgic, happy. It's that time of year where when you see his face pop up, you're like, it's draft time. And, it's a good feeling seeing some of those faces. So it is draft time, moving away from free agency. And like I said, I really wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do today. I was going to cover some simple news and then go into some different things, some different topics and projects that I've been working on in the meantime. Maybe go over some Dynasty rankings. But then, bang, the Dolphins happen. If you are a Miami Dolphins fan, I want to say first and foremost, it's been a long time since you had anything to be excited about. Be excited for today if you're a Dolphins fan. My, did they go in today, and they are looking nice for the future. So before we get into all that and whatnot, we're going to cover some simple news. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Check out the descriptions below, the links below for the Dynasty rankings that I'm still working on, but some of them are in there kind of updated, so take a look at those. And as always, thank you for joining the show. Let us get right into the news. And for the people who are wondering what jersey I am wearing an AP and AD all-day jersey, the Reebok Classics. I miss the Reebok jerseys. I got a Chad Ochocinco one, and I got this one. I miss the Reebok jerseys. I like the Nikes, but these Reeboks, they just always had a different fit, and I liked how heavy the numbers were. So for anybody who's wondering, I'm wearing the AP MVP jersey. AP was one of my original favorite players when I first started watching football. Fun fact for anybody who doesn't know about Fantasy Daily and Nathan is that his favorite player who got him into football is Chad Ochocinco. His favorite player of all time, Devontae Adams. All right, so let's just right into the news, everybody. It was an okay day for news, some little things. Obviously, we're at the opposite end of free agency, so more of the things that you expect to happen now that nobody has a team, or maybe some little things that sneak in throughout time that you didn't expect, and whatever. It's a small change for a team, but we'll see. So Leonard Fournette re-signed with Tampa Bay, which isn't a surprise. We kind of all expected Leonard Fournette to go back to Tampa Bay. It was the most obvious thing for him. If you remember, Leonard Fournette is not a fan of the cold. So if you're not a fan of the cold, it's hard for you to want to go somewhere else besides where it's warm, which is in Tampa Bay. And who wouldn't want to play in Florida? So Leonard Fournette is back with Tampa Bay. As far as the Dynasty implications go and the fantasy implications, to me personally, I'm looking at it as it's like the same exact thing as last year in Tampa Bay as far as running back goes, where you really aren't happy with any of the production you get unless you roll the dice that week and happen to get it right. So it, to me, doesn't really resonate for Dynasty value for anybody that I'm going to look at in the draft. It disappoints my Ronald Jones outlook. I really want to see the day where they kind of just give Ronald Jones some work to see what he can do, because I thought at first he was promising, but I feel like we're kind of running out of time for that. And the fact that they don't run with him, maybe, that time has come and gone. So Leonard Fournette's back there and not much to look at in the Tampa Bay backfield. Deshaun Jackson's on the Rams now. He moved there. Not too much going on for me personally with D-Jax. D-Jax is definitely, for me, past his prime. And, I'm excited to see D-Jax still play, but he's somebody that I'm not really looking at. And I still think, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Robert Woods. You're not getting past that in L.A. Willie Snead and Sammy Watkins have signed with the Ravens. So Lamar Jackson gets a little bit of wide receiver firepower. And they're not awful wide receivers. So, I think Willie Snead stayed on the Ravens, right? Or he went back? I don't know. Anyway, Willie Snead and Sammy Watkins signed with the Ravens today. And it's firepower for Lamar Jackson, but it's still not optimistic as far as me looking at somebody like Sammy Watkins and going, oh, he had big games in Kansas City, remember? No, I'm not in on either one of those guys. I'm not in on Ravens wide receivers. So those to me are small signings that aren't really worth making the news, but they're names that have fantasy relevance, and some people will be looking at it going, oh, I wonder. But to me, it's nothing worth looking at here. Recent news says the Steelers, the Dolphins, and the Bills are all very high on running back from Alabama, Najee Harris. Now, Najee Harris is one of the top running back prospects coming into the year and is probably going to be the first running back taken off the board. So I don't think the Dolphins are going to take them at what they have now is what, the 106, I think? Yeah, they have the 106 now. They're not taking Najee Harris there. So I do expect Najee Harris to end up on the Steelers or the Bills, depending on who might want to trade up for him to ensure that they get him. Or somebody else comes out of left field and grabs him, which would be absolutely hilarious. But anyway, that's the little bit of news that we got for today. And I want to make sure I save a bulk of this time to talk about the trades that happened today. So if you're somebody who doesn't really follow the NFL draft a lot, trades are wild right before the draft as far as picks go, because you don't really know who's going to get what. It's all kind of speculation, so you're kind of just saying who you hope they get, or you see a need on their team and expect them to get. So it's a fun game to play before the draft and say, oh, I think this person's going here, I think this person's going to do this, or this team's going to do this, and then come draft night, nothing's the same. So a lot of this time is really fun speculation that you get to play with and try to craft what you think would happen off of just the trades alone. So let's get right into it, guys. The Dolphins have made a massive splash for their future, and their GM, the head coach Brian Flores, they got to be very proud of themselves tonight. Drinks to you guys, because wow, did the Dolphins just, in my opinion, floss the league. And I know not a lot of people might not know what the word floss means. It means they took advantage of you. They robbed you. They stole from you. They pickpocketed you. The Dolphins did very, very well today. So the Dolphins, from what it looks like, let me preface this first, is that it does look like the Dolphins are going to go into 2021 with either a later on guy at quarterback, if they fall to him at their new pick that they got today, or they're going to run with Tua. But to have two quarterbacks come out of consecutive drafts would be wild for them to do. But at the same time, what a wild quarterback challenge that would be. And you could definitely get some crazy value if you were to trade one of them later on, because you have two very young guys who are very high draft capital people. So getting right into the numbers, everybody, the Dolphins have traded the 103, the third overall pick in the NFL draft, to San Francisco. So San Francisco, who had the 12th pick in the draft, has now moved up to the third pick. Now, before we get into the implications of that, let me say what they gave up. They gave up the 112, which is where they were. So San Francisco gave up the 112, a third round pick, a 2022 first round pick, and a 2023 first round pick. So the Dolphins received 2 first round picks, a third in this year's draft, and moved down 9 spots to get what they got. All right? So San Francisco goes to the 103. The Dolphins then turned around and said, hey, Eagles, we got a deal for you. We're going to give you our 106. I typoed something in here. I don't know what I did. But the Dolphins, we're going to get the 106 from you. Eagles try to trade up to 103. So they trade up to 106. The Eagles get the 112. The Dolphins get the 106, the 123, and a 22 first rounder. So I apologize for that. My pause here because I typoed on my show doc. But the Eagles receive the 112. The Dolphins get the 106, a 123 pick of this year's draft, and a first rounder next year. So boatloads of movement there. And I'm going to summarize this now because I know what I just said was a little bit confusing there. The Dolphins traded the 103 to San Francisco. They then traded the 112 to the Eagles for the 106. So they went down 3 spots, just 3 spots from where they were originally, and they walked away with 3 first rounders in the future, and the Eagles end up with the 112. Now, Miami's drafts in the future, Adam Schefter shared a picture earlier, and this is what Miami's draft looks like for the future. This year, they have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a third-round pick. Next year, they have 2 first-round picks. They have a second and a third. 2023, they have 2 first-round picks, a second and a third. So for all of the movement that they have done in the last year, 2 years, they have 6 first-round picks in the next 3 years. That is wild, Miami. And to actually put that into context, Adam Schefter shared something after that the Laramie Tunstall trade to Houston that the Dolphins made has yielded them 4 first-round picks and a third-round draft pick. So everybody likes to talk about the Herschel Walker deal. The Dolphins just pulled a Herschel Walker off-season, or we'll say 2 years. Because obviously they didn't get everything that the Cowboys got in the Herschel Walker trade and one thing, blah, 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 whatever. But they absolutely dominated trades the last few years to set themselves up very, very pretty. And if they do decide to run with Tua and just use those picks to build around him, wow, Dolphins, wow. So anyway, I don't know what the Dolphins are going to do with this. To be honest, with them having the 106 that they got from the Eagles, I do believe that they're going to hope that a quarterback falls to them, one of the top 5. We'll talk about the top 5 quarterbacks that I'm looking at right now, that basically everybody's looking at right now. If one of them falls to the Dolphins, I don't see a reality where they don't either trade him or trade that pick to a team that really wants one of those top 5s in exchange for more picks on that board. So you could see Miami walk out of this year with like 7 draft picks that they didn't have going into the offseason, which is just absolutely ridiculous to me. But hey, you know how to play the trades, you know how to play the game, and when you know how to play the game, you reap the benefits. So good on you, Miami. Absolutely wild to watch, fun to watch, and yeah, hats off to you. Not much more I can say. So anyway, let's go back into the San Francisco part of this trade. As far as the Eagles, I don't really know what the Eagles are going to do. They don't seem too high on Jalen Hurts. They seem like they're going to, one day say that they're going to be, all in on him. He's going to be the guy. And then next week, they don't know. They might be drafting a quarterback, yada, yada, yada. So I really don't want to make any predictions on the Eagles because I feel like they're so up and down that I can't really say for sure where I feel like they're leaning. But to be honest, I feel like they're trying to save face now that they did what they did with Carson Wentz. And in reality, they don't want Jalen Hurts. But you can't just come out and say, hey, we don't want Jalen Hurts. We'll go, we're getting a quarterback, and we like to have 2 rookie quarterbacks and let them battle. No, you think you made a mistake with Jalen Hurts, and now you're trying to cover it up. So that might be the possibility, but to see them trade down, they did want to try to trade up to the 103 to get Zach Wilson, they said, but it didn't happen. Dolphins ended up making a different move. So going to San Francisco, which is probably the biggest implication and probably the biggest story that most people are talking about today, is with San Francisco moving up to the 103, it's easy to presume that they're going to be taking a quarterback at the 103 position. So if you take a quarterback at the 103 position, you're still staring at Jimmy Garoppolo, who is, he's definitely a starter in the NFL. Whether or not you believe he's your future San Francisco, he's definitely a starter. So this is where I kind of get into the plot of the whole thing. Let me take a sip of my coffee here real quick. Doop. This is where I really get into the plot of what could be happening in San Francisco, could be the shift over. And if they're going to shift over to a quarterback that they're taking that high up in the draft, it's easy to assume that you only take somebody that high in the draft that you're going to say, I'm starting you this year at some point. Whether or not I'm starting you in week 1, I'm starting you at some point this season to me, which means Jimmy G doesn't really have the longevity in San Francisco that San Francisco's claiming he is, because they came out and said, Jimmy G is our starter. He is our guy. But that's another one of those team speak things where they could be saying that just to jack up his draft price to get somebody on the phone and say, I know you said you're keeping him, but you can't turn down this deal I got for you. So for San Francisco to come out and say, hey, he's our guy going into the year, yeah, he may be your guy going into tomorrow, but that doesn't change the fact that when you're sitting at 3 and Justin Fields or Zach Wilson or Mac Jones ends up on your team, you're not thinking the very next day, what can I get out of Jimmy Garoppolo? And the best thing for you to do as San Francisco is trade him before the draft. So me personally, if I had to speculate, I do believe that we see Jimmy G dealt before the NFL draft, which is at the end of April. It's the last, I think, 2 days of April. I'll get the exact date soon. But me personally, I feel like they're going to move on from Jimmy G. Where he ends up is a big question mark. Now, I'm a New England fan, so we're going to dive into that pool for a second because living in New England, listening to Boston radio and all the speculation around us, everybody's saying Jimmy G's coming home. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a Patriots fan. I would love for this thing to come full circle. I was very upset when we traded Jimmy G to San Francisco. I understand we had Brady. I get it. But, he was the golden boy. So the idea of Jimmy G coming home to New England is, it's a Cinderella story that I really want to happen. But that contract, I believe will really, really get in the way of San Francisco being able to get what they want for Jimmy G. Now, with that being said, San Francisco has the cap space to pay Jimmy G and hang on to a rookie quarterback and kind of groom him for a whole year before letting Jimmy G do something else next year. And they can keep him without really feeling the hit. They can still make moves. They still have enough cap space that they can do that. But personally, with the way that Kyle Shanahan runs that team, I really don't believe that they're going to go into 2021 or even past the draft with Jimmy G as their starter. They're moving up, they're going to get a guy, and they're going to make sure that they get their guy for the future. So, Jimmy G's price is only going to go down from this point, and San Francisco knows that. So I just feel like it's difficult for me to assume that he won't be dealt with the value that he has right now. But the price tag attached to him, which I believe is what's happening. I believe that teams have called for Jimmy G. They have asked about it, and San Francisco is being a little bit stingy in the way they're doing it. They might be, they might be looking for a first round pick in return, and people don't value Jimmy G as a first round pick. So what they do is they go out, they do this, blah, 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 and then they have a little bit over everybody's head to say, hey, we don't have to move him, but you're not getting that guy because I'm getting that guy. So with this trade, it kind of fluctuates the whole market as far as what quarterbacks are going to be drafted like and, how they're going to be drafted in that. So before I move on from Jimmy G into that, I want to say that Chris Sims, who is pretty close with Kyle Shanahan, and he's usually pretty good, got his finger on the pulse of things, he still thinks that the 49ers have traded up for Mac Jones specifically. And if that's the case, he does expect Jimmy G to be traded. And just in reports yesterday, we were talking about how there were people saying that Jimmy G trade deal isn't closed. So for them to say that the deal is not closed, and then this happens today, and then San Francisco quickly comes out and he goes, oh, no, he's our starter. To me, it felt like team talk where they're trying to drive up the price before the draft. That way they can get their return on investment with Jimmy G and still have somebody for the future. So me personally, I expect that Jimmy G is going to be traded for like a second or third round pick draft night. It's going to be that night that something happens and he gets traded for a pick and he goes to a team. I'd like to see him go to New England, but at the same time, that contract might keep Bill away, might keep New England away. But I feel like they're the best team to pay for him. And if they don't want to actually pay that draft capital for him, then they're going to get forced to keep Jimmy G, and he's going to lose value every single day that he's on that team. All right, so little coffee break. Let's talk about where the draft kind of looks like right now. And let's talk about the top 5 quarterbacks, because I feel like this is going to be the big conversation in the next month, is where this quarterback draft class really is going to land. So let's kind of preface it before that whole thing, that whole ship kind of takes off. In no specific order, I'm going to give you the 5 quarterbacks. I'm not going to talk about their schools. We'll get into that later on. I'm just going to give you the 5 quarterbacks because we only have like 10 minutes left. And I'm going to talk to you about the draft picks remaining and what could happen, all that. So obviously the number one guy that everybody's talking about, and even if you don't know much about college football or if you don't pay attention much to draft, you've probably heard the name Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is basically this generation's Peyton Manning. Everybody's, over the moon about him, and he's transcended, me personally, I feel like he's transcended to a spot where he's so good that we don't even talk about him in, draft talk anymore. Like, it's just Trevor Lawrence, Jaguars. Like, he's already on that team to most of us. And whether or not the Jags trade out of that position, I doubt it. And if they do, I don't expect him to go farther down than 2 or 3. Mel Kiper predicts that Jags and Jets are going to switch spots, which I don't expect because what's the point? Unless you're going to get a bunch of picks in return. Trevor Lawrence is the, undeniably, that's the guy you go and get. So then there's Zach Wilson, there's Mac Jones, there's Justin Fields, there's Trey Lance, in no specific order. Me personally, I think Zach Wilson and Justin Fields are going to go much, much earlier than Mac Jones and Trey Lance. I feel like Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, and Trevor Lawrence, they're going to be off the board within the top 5, guaranteed, regardless of where trades go. They're going to be gone, and you're going to see a lot of position players go later on in like the 7 to 10 range. But I expect all 5 of these quarterbacks to be gone by pick 7. So if you're a team that, if you're looking at your team's future, if you're a Detroit fan, if you're a New England fan, you're a Houston fan, blah, 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 and you're looking at your team's future and saying, hey, we need quarterback as well, and you're hoping that, they'll trade up to get it, that's kind of my prediction of where they're going to need to trade up to in order to get that player. So the first slate of picks thus far, including the draft pick trades today, is the Jaguars. So a little bit of a mock draft right now as we go. I do believe that the Jags get Trevor Lawrence. I do believe that the Jets were serious when they said that they were going to go out and get another quarterback behind Sam Darnold. I don't expect Sam Darnold to be the starter. I don't think they believe in Sam Darnold. I think they need somebody who's going to come on that team and make an immediate impact right now, and they're willing to throw in the towel on Sam Darnold. So I don't think that the Jets move away from, one of the top guys, and I expect that Zach Wilson will be the one to go to the Jets. So right there in the first 2 picks, you got 2 of the best quarterbacks off the board. Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and Trey Lance are still sitting there. But San Francisco apparently traded up to get Mac Jones. So let's say in the top 3, and that's true, the top 3, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones go in the top 3 just like that. And now you're only left with 2 guys left, Justin Fields being the obvious one who drops and is probably the, draft day win because you don't have to trade all the way up to 1 or 2 to get, or 3 to get Justin Fields. And he's probably one of those top guys that people aren't really paying enough attention to as far as he should be going at 1, 2, or 3. So with the 4th pick, it would be the Falcons unless they trade out. But with Matt Ryan's age and the way that things have gone the last few years for them, I wouldn't expect that they trade out of that unless they still feel like they're in on Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan still has playtime in him. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons trade out of this. So if there is a possibility for a team to trade back into the quarterback race, I believe number 4 is where you're going to see the big splash. The Falcons trading down to acquire a couple of picks to build around and maybe, help out the future, kind of let Matt Ryan be the bridge quarterback to what's going to be the future because you're probably not looking for a Super Bowl Atlanta. So you're probably looking to rebuild a little bit more than just 1 or 2 people. You're looking for a lot of picks down the road. So this is a good spot for you to be in to, trade that pick. And I won't be surprised if you see that happen that night. So off of that, then it comes to the Bengals. Now, the Bengals, so obviously with the 4th pick, I expect somebody to trade up and take Justin Fields or Trey Lance, but we'll see. The Bengals, I don't think they need a quarterback, obviously. They have Joe Burrow, but I think they're going to take the left tackle. I can't remember his name. He's got a fun last name. I can't remember him, but he's a beast. So I think he's going to take the left tackle. And then that's when we come back to the Dolphins. And this is where I think the Dolphins really, 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 really make out with everything that they just did, because I think that the Dolphins stay at 6 and they take somebody like Trey Lance. And they know. I feel like they did the math and they knew, hey, if we're still in this top 5, we may not get these guys, but we'll get one of these guys. And if we get one of these guys plus all these picks, oh man, it's money. So the following picks after that are Detroit, Carolina, Denver, which are 3 teams that are really quarterback needy. So they could easily turn over one of their picks and say, hey, I'll give you the 6th or 7th pick for your 4th or your 5th, whatever, blah, 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 may be. So those people are only moving down 1, blah, blah, blah. That's an easy trade for somebody to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see one of those 3 teams trade in, which I think Carolina is going to be the one. I think Carolina is the team that moves up to 4 to get Justin Fields. But we'll see what happens on draft night. As far as the Dolphins go, though, I really feel like this is a huge thing. If you're a Dolphins fan, you must be ecstatic right now, and you deserve to be. Run around the streets with a Dan Marino jersey or whatever it is you Miami fans do. I don't know, but I would be ecstatic if I was a Dolphins fan today, guys. It was huge to watch. It was fun to watch. It's going to be really fun to watch the draft night. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys tonight. I really wanted to get on here and kind of just, make sure I shared another show for you. If it's Saturday morning and you're just watching this, good morning. I'm sorry I messed up all the Eagles and San Francisco picks and everything. I hope I made it clear enough in the end towards that. But a big day today on Friday. Expect a big weekend as well. We'll probably see some of those free agents come in, maybe even some more draft pick trades in the next week or so. But that's it for tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, tonight. Have a good morning or have a good day if you're listening on Saturday. And if it's Friday night and you're listening, go to bed, man. Come on, why are you up? I know, why am I up drinking coffee? But it's football time, so I got to talk to y'all. I love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, share or something for me, please. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night.